What's up, YouTube? Brett from Rants here. As always, guys, if you enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Today I'm going to be talking about Mulan, the live-action version, or at least Disney's attempt to make a Mulan movie. That is apparently Disney's ability to make good films died in the 1990s, because this film is an utter disaster. And I cannot believe that there would be people that are actually saying that this is a brave new film and this is inspiring, like you see on some of the Rotten Tomato comments. I don't want to go so far as to say those are probably bots, but I'm just going to come out and say that's probably not somebody that's not, or probably not someone that's watched the film that thinks that this is brave and an inspiring new film. Let's just put it that way. This film is utter garbage. It is a tire fire that just cannot be put out. It has already had numerous things of controversy, mostly due to its attempt to be progressive while at the same time holding up China. Now, I know everyone knows that the actress that plays Mulan, she's taken some criticism because of her stance on Chinese oppression when it comes to, I think it's Taiwan. But overall, I mean, I don't want to hold it against her. Everybody's got an opinion. I'm not one of those types of people that believes that you should, boycott a film because you don't agree with the politics of the person. Everybody should have a right to say and believe as they wish. And, granted, you can spend your money however you so choose, and if you, I guess, feel like so strongly about an issue that you need to boycott, that you feel like you need to boycott it, then all power to you. It's just not how I personally would handle things. With that said, Disney needs to be held to a certain standard. Disney is trying to push a narrative, and Disney is failing miserably at pushing a narrative. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot, hold water for an oppressive regime in China, and at the same time be woke. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it works. Granted, I'm not the biggest fan of the whole wokeness that is going on right now in films and sports and everything else under the sun. I kind of feel like people need a break from things. They need to enjoy things. They need to be inspired by things instead of always being reminded of the negatives in life. Not to say we should ignore the negatives. No, by far, no. But we should also, kind of have a fair and balanced way of viewing things. Nothing doesn't suck completely. Some things need to be, let's get rid of the bad things in life while holding up the better things in life. That's my personal view on things. But as far as Mulan is concerned, the 1998 version cartoon was head over heels better than this film. The only thing that this film is better at is that it has, no doubt it has stunning visuals. I mean, they far exceeded even my expectations for this film. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say that that the original Mulan was my favorite Disney film. It wasn't by far. I was more of a Aladdin person myself. With that said, I'm not also a big fan of these Disney live action films. Now, I didn't have a problem with Beauty and the Beast. I actually enjoyed that film. I thought that film stay true to the original, which I'm not totally against changing, or I mean keeping everything as it is. I'm not caught up in that whole nostalgia stuff where that, you know, the original was magical and so therefore you have to try to copy it completely. No, I hated that part about The Force Awakens and Star Wars. I felt like it was basically just a rehashing of the original series. I did not enjoy that film. I did not enjoy the whole sequel films, but I'm also realistic enough to understand that you can't recapture the magic of a lot of these films. You have to kind of create your own magic. But Disney is so bad about this now. They are just horrible at trying to understand what people want in a film anymore. Or a movie, a series, anything. They just think that if we can be woke enough that people will show up for, and pay money to see things. Not going to happen. You have to have good storytelling. And unfortunately, Mulan lacks, or this new version of Mulan lacks that storytelling that is needed. I mean, I don't know exactly this whole female empowerment thing. Yes, there's I have a daughter myself. I want there to be strong female characters out there for my daughter to look up to, but I also want my daughter to not be so focused on that. She needs to understand that, we're all human beings here. We're all on an equal level when it comes to that. And there's some things that men do better than women and vice versa, and that's fine. That doesn't make one, more important or better than the other one. In fact, we're balanced out. And I feel like Disney, and especially this Mulan film, I feel like they're into that toxic femininity. The one where they don't want the female character to fail in any way, to look insecure in any way. They want her to be this strong, independent female that goes in there and handles her business, and everybody admires her, and everybody thinks she's the greatest thing ever. You saw it in Star Wars with Rey. You're seeing it now with Mulan. I feel like that is. I feel like it's insincere. I feel like those aren't the heroes I want my daughter to look up to. I want my daughter to understand that there is that you're going to have trials and tribulations, and that is what makes you stronger. That overcoming all of that makes you a stronger human being. Um, Not this whole I'm perfect and everybody should just adore me kind of mindset. That's that whole millennial thing. I'm not personally into that. I think that is a garbage mentality, and I am not shying away from saying it either. But as far as this film is concerned, okay, they didn't put Li Shang in this film. The whole romance between Mulan and Li Shang. They did not put him in this film because they thought that that him in a commanding position that would look bad in this whole Me Too era. Well, this is Hollywood and Disney. Um, just because they're pervy and they've taken advantage of women for years and years and years, and there's no denying that. There's a lot of things that Hollywood has got away with, demeaning women, that now they're being called on it for a little bit, and thank God for that. They should have been called on it a long time ago. They've hidden it under this toxic femininity. They thought, well, if we put out movies this way, but yet we treat female characters in a specific way or female actresses in a certain way, they won't catch on to that part. We'll just we'll do our films out here and we'll preach this thing, but we're not going to practice it. That is a lot of problems with Hollywood. That's a lot of problems with this movie in general, because the whole Li Shang thing kind of was an inspirational romance. It wasn't love at first sight when it come to Mulan. He thought Mulan was a male soldier. He thought, she was a terrible soldier, and he didn't even want her in the army. He thought she was a complete and total failure in the 1998 version. Well, that it was an inspiring romance because she overcame that. He saw her for who she really was, and he fell in love with her. That was a great story arc. Well, instead they decided that we're not going to worry about that kind of story arc. We're going to have her kind of fall in love with the soldier while he thinks she's a male, and I guess that's their some version of, I don't know, a gay romance. I don't know exactly what they're going with that. They're not even that clear in the film exactly where they're going with that. But, and then another thing that they left off was Mushu. Okay, this is my problem with the original Mulan. The original Mulan, Mulan didn't really have that much of a personality. Mushu made was the comedic aspect of that film. He brought the best out in Mulan. He put her in situations where it was comedy gold. Without Mushu in this film, they replaced him with a phoenix that sometimes flies around. It looks like something straight out of a video game. But taking him out of that just made Mulan just the typical bland character that has a super amount of chi, but doesn't have very much personality to go along with it. Apparently, the reason why Mushu was taken out of the film is because he didn't go over with Chinese audiences. Again, this is Disney's idea of playing to the Chinese audiences and not really concerning themselves with what anyone else thinks. Granted, like I've said before, you make your money. Disney's a business, and if that's how they want to do things, all power to them. I personally disagree with it, but I'm not going to hold it against them, for it. But I felt like Mushu was needed in this film, and unfortunately, this film suffered without him. Another one that was in this film, and they kind of made a character that was similar, but definitely not the same one, was that Shan Yu. Okay, Shan Yu in the original one was the Hun's, general that he just had this like evil aura about him. He was just evil incarnate, and he showed it in every scene that he was in. Granted, people will say, well, he's a one-dimensional character, and so they upgraded him. With this, I think his name was Bori Khan or something along those lines in this new Mulan. And instead of him being a Hun, he's a Roaring. Whatever, I'm not familiar with the history of that, so I can't speak on that. But I will say that there was that this new character just didn't come off as being the ultimate villain that Shan Yu presented in the original cartoon. Mainly because the Hun army in the original cartoon, they were like the elite. Like they were like, these special ops basically that could do anything, that just them alone could take down an army, just a handful of them. With this, in this movie, Shan Yu and his army are nothing without this witch that is an ally of theirs. So in that regard, the enemies are just weak and just not that interesting. Granted, they did give this Bori Khan made him more than a one-dimensional character, but they didn't make him interesting. I was not very impressed by him. Another thing that bothered me, and this was probably my biggest complaint, because it was the best. Really, it was the whole point of the original Mulan film. In the original Mulan film of 1998, the cartoon version, Mulan, she knew that her father was in poor health, and she knew he wouldn't survive this war. So she cut her hair and took off, to present herself as a man to join the army. She did it for noble reasons. In this film, it doesn't seem like she does it necessarily just for her father. It feels like she does it more to show off her own powers, because she's like, you know, I'm not getting to, I guess I'm not getting the attention I want, and you're trying to hold me down by not letting me show off my powers. So I'm gonna go off to the army, and I'm going to, I guess, be top notch at everything I do, and get all these accolades and things along those lines. Don't get me wrong, they did have an aspect where she was kind of doing it for her father, but it just did not come off that way. If I didn't know the original film or the original cartoon of it, I would not have got that from this film. I would have got it. She went there for her own personal reasons, not to protect her father. That was another thing. When she got to the army, all of these trials and tribulations that she had to face in the cartoon, she didn't have to do in this live action version of Mulan. She just, there was that, I remember there was that 1998 version of it. There was that where she was carrying the water, and she was like at the back of the pack, and she keep falling with it. Everybody else was progressing, and she was digressing, or regressing terribly. It got to the point, and she couldn't climb that tall timber thing. She couldn't get to the top of it, and so she come to the realization in the cartoon that she wasn't strong enough to be able to do the things that what these men were doing in the army. So she had to use her creativity, her intelligence, to overcome those obstacles. And that is really the message that should have been portrayed in this film. That is not a negative message. That is a positive message. That is a message you would want your boy or girl to hear. You wouldn't want them to hear this. Well, you can just overcome anything and don't ask questions why. You just can because you're a strong, independent female. I guess, I don't know. But in this movie, instead of her falling behind and them wanting to send her home and her having to better herself and overcome these obstacles, they instead, in the water scene, she's actually at the front of the line. In fact, she's so good that the general in the Chinese army goes in there and tells her that she is so good that that she's holding herself back, that she needs to be even better. It doesn't say anything, the one thing she had to learn in the original was actually teamwork too. She had to learn to get along with other people in there. This film doesn't have that. In fact, some of the men that were, kind of the comic relief that were buddies in the first film or in the 1998 version, they're not even, in this, they're nothing but hype men. They're there. They didn't cut them out, which they probably should have. All they're there for is to tell her how great she is and how powerful she is and how they wish they could be her. That is all they're there for. They don't give her any hassles of any way. She doesn't have to win their respect. She doesn't have to earn their friendship. She is just automatically, they fall in love with her, and she's just great, and they spend the whole show telling everybody how great she is. That was boring. That was incredibly boring. It ruined those three characters in my view. Um, but overall, I mean, this film was just, like I said, it was a tire fire. It was terrible from beginning to end. You could say that visually it was impressive, but from a story perspective, it was garbage, especially in comparison to the original. And again, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the original, but even I got to give it credit. It was, inspirational. It would be something I would want my children to watch, and get, because it had a good message to it. Mulan was a really noble person in this. In this one, Mulan is just somebody that seems like she just wants to seek attention. She doesn't have to, when she finally reveals herself as a man, she has already earned everybody's respect, and she goes in there single-handedly and defeats armies and so forth. She intentionally does, causes the avalanche that takes down the invading horde, and wherein she did it by accident in the cartoon, which that just basically details everything in this movie about how they wanted Mulan to be perfect in this film, and they didn't want anything, no resemblance to the film before, where she had to earn her way up that. In this way, it's just like this Mulan hit a cheat code and she's invincible, and she didn't earn any of the accolades that she did in the first film. That's a very definition of a Mary Sue character. That is, this Mulan is another version of Rey, from Star Wars, and that's just disappointing. But that is Disney in general right now. Disney is constantly pushing out this wokeness, this, like I said, toxic femininity. They don't care about appealing to audiences. They either want to go one of two ways. They either want to shove their wokeness down your throat, or either they're not talented enough to write actually good storylines anymore, so they just rehash the same stuff word for word in some of these films. Like I said, I'm not a fan of their live action stuff, but I would have been a fan of Mulan if it had a little bit more heart to it. This film lacked that. It lacked the charisma that the original one had. It lacked the magic. This one is, for a protagonist who has magical chi, there was nothing else magical about her. She was just the most boring, average character you could possibly imagine in any film, not just a Disney film, but any film for that matter. But overall, that's my take on this new Disney Mulan live action film. As always, guys, leave us a comment. I want to know what y'all think about this film. If I've got a different take and y'all enjoyed it and y'all wanted to spend $30 on it, all power to you. Me personally, wasn't for me. Felt like Disney owes me about 2 hours of my life. And that's 2 hours I can't get back, and I'm pretty upset about that. So, overall, guys, like I said, just leave a comment down below. Don't forget to share or subscribe if you enjoy our content. And take care, guys.